What if a king, raised in the mountains, could build an empire that defied the most powerful forces of his time, using shadows and whispers as his primary weapons? This isn't a fantasy tale. This is the story of a man who became a legend, a force of nature carved from the very rock of the Sahyadri mountains. A king who turned guerrilla warfare into an art form and whose spies were said to be the mountains themselves, watching and listening. This is the untold story of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Our story begins not in a grand palace, but in the rugged hills of the Deccan. Imagine a teenager, barely old enough to rule, standing before a sacred idol, his hand on his sword. This wasn't just any teenager. This was Shivaji, and the oath he took that day wasn't just a promise. It was the spark of Swaraj self-rule. It was a vision that many considered impossible, a dream whispered among a people long accustomed to foreign dominion. Was it youthful rebellion, or was it something more? Legends say it was a divinely inspired mission, a calling to restore dignity and freedom to his land. And then there's the sword. Bhavani, a name that echoes with power. The stories surrounding this blade are as mysterious as the man who wielded it. Some say it was a gift from the goddess Bhavani herself, a divine instrument for a divine purpose. Others whisper that it was forged in a celestial fire. While historians debate its exact origins, one thing is certain. In Shivaji's hands, the Bhavani sword became more than just steel. It was a symbol of hope, a flash of lightning that cut through the darkness of oppression, representing the righteous fury of a people determined to be free. This sword and the oath it sealed were the first steps on a path that would change the course of Indian history forever. To the mighty Mughal and Adil Shahi empires, he was an enigma, a phantom. They called him the mountain rat, a term meant to belittle him, but it inadvertently captured the essence of his genius. Shivaji wasn't a rat to be trapped. He was the ghost of the Sahyadri mountains. He didn't fight battles. He orchestrated them. His art of war was Ganimi Kava, a fluid, unpredictable style of guerrilla warfare that turned the very landscape into his greatest ally. His soldiers, the Mavlas, were men born of the mountains, as rugged and resilient as the peaks they called home. They could appear from nowhere, strike like thunder, and vanish into the mist before the enemy even knew what hit them. This wasn't just about ambushes and raids. It was a psychological masterpiece. Shivaji understood that fear was a more potent weapon than any cannon. His campaigns were designed to keep his larger, more powerful enemies constantly off balance, guessing, and terrified of the shadows. The mountains weren't just his refuge. They were his fortress, his playground, and his weapon. He knew every secret path, every hidden cave, every vantage point, while his enemies lumbered through treacherous valleys with their heavy armies. Shivaji and his men moved like the wind, using the terrain to their advantage, making the impossible possible. But how did he know where to strike? How did he anticipate every move his enemies made? The answer lies in one of the most sophisticated intelligence networks of its time, an organization so effective it felt almost supernatural. Shivaji's spies were the unseen eyes and ears of his kingdom. They were not just soldiers in disguise. They were masters of deception, blending into every level of society. They were merchants in bustling markets, holy men in temples, court performers, and even servants in the enemy's own palaces. They gathered information not just on troop movements, but on the morale of the enemy, the gossip in the court, the personal habits of commanders. This network was his true secret weapon. It allowed him to be proactive, not reactive. He didn't just respond to threats. He neutralized them before they could even materialize. Information flowed back to him through a complex system of runners, coded messages, and secret signals, turning the vast, wild landscape into a living, breathing communication grid. His enemies thought they were fighting an army of men. In reality, they were fighting an army of information. This web of intelligence is what allowed for his most daring and legendary feats, like the stealthy capture of supposedly impregnable forts. Conquering a fort in the 17th century was a monumental task. It meant long sieges, massive casualties, and a huge drain on resources. But for Shivaji, it was a different game. He didn't just see forts as stone and mortar. He saw them as puzzles, each with a unique solution. And his key to solving these puzzles was often stealth, not brute force. Take the legendary capture of Sinhagad. The fort was considered unconquerable, perched atop a sheer cliff. A conventional assault was suicide. So Shivaji's trusted general, Tanaji Malasare, did the unthinkable. Under the cover of darkness, he and a small band of commandos used trained monitor lizards, or gorpids, with ropes tied to them, to scale the vertical rock face, surprising the garrison from within. It was a high-risk, high-reward mission that became the stuff of folklore. Then there was the capture of Panhala Fort. Trapped and outnumbered, Shivaji executed one of the greatest escapes in military history. But escaping wasn't enough. He later recaptured that same fort, not with a massive army, but with a small group of just 60 chosen men who infiltrated the fort by memorizing its layout and guard patterns. These weren't just military victories. They were masterclasses in strategy, courage, and audacity. He proved that it wasn't the size of the army that mattered, but the sharpness of the mind behind it. But the story of Shivaji Maharaja isn't just one of battles and espionage. To focus only on his military genius is to miss the true scale of his vision. He wasn't just a warrior, he was a nation builder. A visionary king whose administrative policies were centuries ahead of his time. While his contemporaries were focused on conquest and plunder, Shivaji was laying the foundation for a sustainable, just, and efficient state. He established a cabinet of 8 ministers, the Ashtapradhan Mandal, each responsible for a specific portfolio, from finance to foreign affairs. This wasn't a court of flattering nobles. It was a merit-based system of governance, a functioning bureaucracy designed for the welfare of the people. He reformed the land revenue system, ensuring that taxes were fair and that farmers were protected from exploitation by corrupt landlords. He understood that a strong economy was the bedrock of a strong kingdom. His administration focused on promoting trade, protecting merchants, and ensuring that the wealth of the kingdom circulated for the benefit of its citizens, not just a select few. This focus on good governance and public welfare is what truly set him apart. He wasn't just fighting for territory. He was fighting for the idea of a kingdom that belonged to its people. Perhaps one of his most groundbreaking and least known achievements was the creation of the first modern Indian Navy. In an age where Indian rulers largely ignored the seas, leaving them to European powers, Shivaji saw things differently. He understood a fundamental truth. He who controls the sea, controls the trade, and ultimately controls the land. He couldn't challenge the Mughals on the vast northern plains, but he could dominate the Konkan coast. He began building his own ships, small, fast, and agile vessels perfect for the coastal waters. He established naval bases and coastal forts, creating a maritime shield for his burgeoning empire. This navy wasn't just for defense, it was an offensive force. It protected Maratha merchant ships, challenged the naval supremacy of the Portuguese, the English and the Siddhis of Janjira, and collected taxes from trading vessels. It was a bold and audacious move that demonstrated his incredible foresight. He was thinking in terms of strategic depth and economic control at a time when most were thinking only of land battles. This creation of a powerful indigenous navy was not just a military innovation. It was a declaration of sovereignty over the sea as well as the land. Even more remarkable were his social policies. In an era marked by religious strife and persecution, Shivaji built his kingdom on a foundation of secularism and tolerance. His army was a true meritocracy. He had numerous Muslim soldiers and commanders in high-ranking positions. His most trusted naval admiral, Daulat Khan, and his chief of artillery, Ibrahim Khan, were Muslims. His personal secretary was a Muslim. He respected all faiths, gave grants to temples, mosques, and Sufi shrines alike, and had strict orders that during raids, holy books of any religion were to be treated with respect and returned to their followers. He was also a champion of women's honor. His soldiers were under strict command not to harm women or children, even those of the enemy. There are famous accounts of him personally ensuring the safe and honorable return of captured women to their families. In the 17th century, these were not just progressive policies. They were revolutionary. They showed that Shivaji's vision of Swaraj wasn't for one community or one religion. It was a vision of a just and humane society where every individual, regardless of their background, could live with dignity and security. This moral code was the true strength of his kingdom. So, who was Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja? He was more than a king, more than a warrior. He was the mountain king, a force of nature who carved an empire out of sheer will and brilliant strategy. He was the ghost of the Sahyadris, whose mastery of guerrilla warfare and intelligence turned his enemies' strength into their weakness. He was a visionary administrator, a pioneer who built a modern navy and championed policies of justice and tolerance that were centuries ahead of his time. His legacy is not just in the forts that still stand sentinel on the mountaintops, or in the ballads that sing of his deeds. His legacy is in the idea of Swaraj, the idea that with courage, intelligence, and an unwavering vision, even the most impossible dreams can be realized. He wasn't just fighting against empires. He was fighting for a principle. He proved that true power doesn't come from the size of your army, but from the spirit of your people and the justice of your cause. His story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest empires are built not with stone and steel, but with shadows, whispers, and an unbreakable will. That's the hidden side of this incredible historical figure. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of his story fascinates you the most? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into history, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.